Hey, Maddy, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining me on Consulting
Yeah, of
Logistics.
course.
So let's start off with some easy stuff. Tell me who you are, where you're working right now, kind of where you're from, the fun stuff.
Sure. So I'm Maddy, obviously. I am from Wyoming, Rhode Island, born and raised. Currently, I am at CVS Health, and I'm a senior consultant for inbound logistics.
All right, fun. So on SEU 30, we're basically talking about the journey people under 30 took to get to the supply chain and really talking about everything with it. So let's go way, way, way back and start with sort of your childhood. What was it like? Did you have a lot of technology growing up? Like how was it growing up?
So yeah, I mean, I feel like I was a pretty big nerd growing up. I feel like I had a lot of technology, like video games and stuff, but I didn't get a phone until high school. Like that's like really when everything started to come into play with like handheld technology and like really taking it everywhere with you.
Right.
But I was a big technology buff. Like anything new that came out, I was like, Mom and Dad, can I get this type thing? But it wasn't really until high school that they let me have something that was like open to the whole world, like a phone, like in order to communicate like with outside people, you know. So
what about laptop and stuff? Did you guys have?
Nope.
No,
we had like
computer?
one desktop computer for the whole family, but we had to take turns and fight over it. So yeah, but nothing like your own little tablet or anything until way later.
So how many of them were like, how you got brothers and sisters? Siblings?
Yeah. So I have two brothers. I have one older. He's 2 years older. And then I have a younger brother who's actually 8.5 years younger.
Oh.
So that technology gap between us is like pretty awesome to talk about too. Because he basically grew up with all that technology where I kind of transitioned into it in my childhood. So
yeah. I was definitely the same. We had we didn't have any. I was the oldest. I had two younger siblings, but we were only kind of like 4 years apart with the youngest one. So we had the sort of the same thing, but we had the one computer household that was right in the living room that like took up everything. So the fun stuff there.
Yeah.
What was school like? Kind of what was your interest in school? What were you doing like kind of in the high school range, like middle school stuff?
Yeah. So I was I'm not a math person at all, but I was very English. I loved books. I loved writing, everything. I always thought I would write my own book or anything like that, like just trying to be creative. And then I had no idea what I wanted to do growing up. Like people would always be like, what do you want to do? I'd be like, I don't know, maybe be a writer, maybe be a doctor. I don't know. Like, so yeah, I just had no clue what I wanted to do. But once I got here, I knew.
So when you say here, is that like college? College.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, wow, man, it's fun because I was the same way. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like legit got into communications because Anchorman was popular when I was like right at that thing. Mom was like, oh, you'd be funny on air. I'm like, no, I wouldn't, but I like communication. So I went that way. But so how did you pick your college? How did you kind of come to that conclusion?
So I was pretty boring. So I grew up in Wyoming, Rhode Island, and I went to URI, which was 15 minutes away from my house. And I commuted. I didn't live there. So it was, it wasn't like a traditional college experience because it was more like I just commuted every day, went to class, did the library time and like clubs and stuff. But then I would go home. So it wasn't like I had the actual like immersed college experience. But when I went in, I was undeclared because, again, I was like, I don't know what to do. But once I really started to get exposed to like any type of general business courses and stuff, I was like, okay, where could the money be? And so that was kind of like where I made the decision. But so I went into business first after being undeclared, and I just went through all those general classes, accounting, finance, and then there was a transportation class. And I just, for some reason, it just really clicked. And I was like, I kind of like this. Like people do this for their full-time job. And then it just kind of stuck with me. And I've wanted to do it ever since.
How did it click? Like, especially being more of like an English kind of like you're more of the creative type. How did that, like, what did you find interesting about it? I
really just think it was the professor and the way they made everything come across. It was just not so like stern, like, oh, turn the page, go through the course. It was just like really interactive, and he made it like real world, not so much just like, oh, you're looking at a situation in a book that's not real and you're not having any impact. Like he told us like really what the industry impacts could be and like really what you could do. And I guess that just really appealed to me, like knowing that I could go out into the world and actually do something to make a difference rather than just crunching numbers on a paper or something like that.
So were you doing like hands-on projects with real world stuff, or what were you kind of doing?
It was kind of just more like hypothetical stuff. But actually, when I was in college, they gave us a project that said, if you were going to open your own convenience store, such as a CVS, how would you get the product there and everything? And how would you design everything around that? So I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like this could be a real life project.
Right.
And now here I am at CVS, like doing that for real. So it's cool.
Have you called up the professor and be like, I did it?
I did. Yeah. Well, I mean, funny enough, this is actually like really, really small world, but he used to work here and he was the head of this department at CVS in transportation.
Really?
So he's probably like, oh my God, you're my protege. Like I got you here. So
that's a lot of fun, like kind of theoretical stuff. How about like tools and stuff, especially like in logistics, right? Technology is becoming such a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
How much were you experiencing that in college in the classroom setting?
Not at all, actually. It was really more so just like terms and like how things are done, but we weren't really exposed to any real type of technology that anybody uses or anything. And I feel like that might have been a reason why it was so hard for me to kind of get a job after college, because I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't have the actual tools and experience using it in order to go actually do it.
That's a good transition. I guess, did you do, I'm guessing no, but like no internships, none of that stuff?
I tried. And then it was just a small pool of people that got selected. And I was like, oh, unfortunately, it wasn't me. So, yeah.
Yeah. So then I guess we can skip ahead. Or so you took that class, and then do you declare what type of major did you end up graduating with?
Yeah, so supply chain.
Okay.
I decided.
So you went with that.
Yep.
Was there more classes within the supply chain, or?
It was actually a new major at URI. So I was like, I really need to jump into this. Like this could be really big.
Right.
And that same professor that I had that really inspired me, he actually taught a majority of the courses. So that really also, I was like, oh, I need to learn what else he has to say. So I really just kind of followed him around. It was like, I need to be where this guy is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess now into that thing, you graduate, because it's a lot of book stuff. You did struggle with the market, which is so interesting. I mean, you read everything, you're like, it's an aging workforce. Like, how do we get the youth? How do we get the youth?
Right.
What was your experience? What happened? Kind of that immediate graduate, here's time for a jobby job. What went down?
So, yeah, I graduated in May of 2015 and I had a 3.5 GPA overall. I thought I was coming out like with some good knowledge. I thought I would, a women in supply chain. I was like, this could be big. Like I'm, young, driven, like who wouldn't want me? But, and then I ran into the struggle. It actually took like over 6 months. I would apply and they would always say, we had another candidate that just kind of beat you. And I went on countless interviews, and I mean like tough interviews too, like with multiple panels. And it's like, it was entry level, right. I had to do multiple, and I was just denied from almost everything. So
was this New England, just knowing that you're kind of Rhode Island, or was this like nationwide? Like you were just trying anywhere? After
college, I was like, I'm not going to limit myself because of my lack of experience. I was like, I'll go to Texas. I'll go to California. I'll go anywhere. And then, but by applying to those places, they were kind of like, oh, we're not offering relocation or anything like that. So it just kind of, they were like, oh, this candidate's all the way across the country. We're not even going to consider them.
Right.
So that was a fail too.
So the main thing you were hearing back was just experience? Like that's the lack of?
Yeah, like there was somebody else that had more than you, so we chose them.
Wow. And then just women in the supply chain, though. You would think that it's like, let's bring them in. Come on.
Diversity, and it's a really male-dominated industry, so...
Well, I gotta imagine so, but it's still, you're bringing in youth in like a different, like diversity, like so much stuff. You would think, especially you read all the stuff that like, oh, you probably had offers at the table.
I know.
Did you so because it was a new degree and stuff, was there not like a job fair? Was there none of that stuff? Like, did they just they haven't built up their talent pool, or like their employers kind of recognizing? Do you think that was an issue?
I mean, I think kind of, they did have job fairs and stuff, but it was more so for like people in accounting and finance. It wasn't necessarily supply chain driven. And it was just tough.
So did you, after the kind of like, once you started really hitting like the just striking out a bunch, were you thinking like maybe I go and get my MBA, or kind of what were you thinking?
So yeah, I was like, I needed to do something. I was like, should I go back to school? Should I go spend more money on school? Or I was like, I need some type of income. Like, my parents are like, hey, you're long gone. You got to figure it out yourself. So I was like, oh,
you
great.
lived here for 4 years in college. I
exactly.
Thought we were free.
Right. So
you got your youngest sibling over here. He wants the new iPhone. I don't even know what the hell this is.
Right. So yeah, I kind of panicked. I was like, I need to make money somehow. I was like, and I didn't want to just say, okay, I'll go back to school and do this, because then I would still not not have that experience. And I was afraid that would happen again.
Right.
If I went and got my MBA and then tried to apply again, it would still be, okay, yeah, you have the school and you have a good GPA and everything, but there's no industry experience. So somebody could still beat me out. So I was worried about that.
Right.
So I was kind of thinking, okay, should I get something on the book? Should I go do retail or something not related at all to my degree? And then somehow I just I was persevering and I still applied. And then I finally got something at TMC CH Robinson.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's transition to that. What did you get? Kind of what was that first experience? Were you just thrown to the wolves, like knowing that everyone's like, you need experience. Yep. And when you finally get it, was it just like, whoa, what the hell just happened?
Pretty much a slap in the face. Like I got thrown into the fire.
Like, what about my books? I read all these books.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So TMC CH Robinson, they have their own TMS that is proprietary, and it's called Navisphere. And so they pretty much didn't have any onboarding type of SOP or anything. They were just like, all right, you're just going to sit with people, you're just going to practice. And I would say it really took me around 6 months to a year to really get comfortable with even just what I was doing on a daily basis, because it was just so overwhelming, so much. And like, it's different when you read about something in a book and then you do it in the real world. And I was like, okay, maybe this is that gap that I was missing, like at the beginning when nobody would hire me.
Right.
So it was really tough at the beginning, but the more you do it, the more I was like, this is where I need to be.
Is it just learning? Like for me, when I kind of first jumped into the whole supply chain logistics stuff, I mean, it's just like the terminology was kind of different. And then like understanding what someone means when they call themselves supply chain manager, you're like, you might be logistics, you might be transportation, you might be procurement, you might be all these millions
inventory, all these different things.
Like so many things, but like they all use the same words. You're like, what the heck? So that was that. I mean, if you were to talk to someone kind of younger, like about to step into this thing, what kind of advice would you give them if they were about to begin that kind of first journey, especially not having a lot of like no internships, no real experience? Like what was something that you just like, here's the one thing that helped me kind of move forward with it?
Just always listen and always ask questions, because people are always talking in acronyms too, like, TONU, that, like anything, like you're just like, oh, what does that mean? So I just always had to ask so many questions, and it eventually just sticks. Like it kind of clicks one day and you're like, oh, okay, because that's the transportation terminology. But I feel like that's probably the same way with any type of role you take. It's like if you have no experience doing it, there's going to be a learning curve, but you'll get it eventually. What
about technology? What were you kind of utilizing? How was it? Was it something where you're like, cool, I know all this stuff, you're like excited to use it, whereas someone who's been in the industry for a while was like, oh no, this is too much. Like pen and paper doesn't shut down on me.
Right. Well, so because I graduated in May and then didn't actually land the job until November, what I found when I went in was like, I opened up Outlook and I'm like, oh, I've used Outlook. And then I was like, oh, I'm rusty. And I like didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, oh, like Excel, like what are the formulas again? Like I really had to like refresh myself. But just, I think that would also be beneficial for somebody looking, is like, if you can't find a job, just really brush up on your skills. Because once you get in, they're just going to throw you to the wolves. And like, that's really the best way to learn. So really brush up and know what you're doing so that you can learn more as time goes on.
Oh man, when I like first started with Aborn, like, and they pulled up the Excel docs, I'm watching them just go to pivot tables macros, and quick stuff, all this. Stuff. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, I used to think I was good because I created like a little schedule that the time would change if I added 5 minutes because I knew what like the little thing was.
Yeah.
Like what? Like how fast that type of stuff happens. So how are the people? I mean, what was it like? Kind of, was it a welcoming environment? Because like you're new, or what was that like? What was that experience?
It was actually a really good environment, because when I went in, it was just all young people, all kind of straight out of college too. Right. So I was like, this is a good environment for me. This will be a good space to learn. Everybody came in at one point, and are learning. So it was a really small team of people, about 5 people. And so I was able to kind of just like get taken under all their wings, and they were able to show me, and we all kind of became like a little family because of it. Because when you have a small, close-knit team, it's better than having a big department where you're like, oh, who's that person again? I don't necessarily know their name. So it's good to kind of have somebody to lean on and let them kind of teach you what they know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So where did you end up kind of going after that? Not that you got your family and stuff, but it's also like a starting job. And sometimes, especially in a small team, it's hard to kind of continue growing and stuff like that. So where did you end up going? Kind of what's next in your career journey for the supply chain?
Yeah, so I felt like at TMC, CH Robinson, we were doing ocean spray freight, and I handled all their freight, and it just kind of came to the point where I felt, what is next for me? Because I didn't want to just be doing the same thing over and over. I feel like supply chain is so vast. Like, what else can I learn? Because you going through the motions of the everyday, when you're only stuck to one type of commodity too, you're like, there could be more out there, more that I don't know and could learn.
Right.
So I actually knew some people at CVS transportation. And so I said, hey, is there any opportunity out there? Because being at Ocean Spray, I was on the vendor side and selling to customers. But here at CVS, I'm on the retail side. So we're picking up from the vendors. So it's cool to be on the other side of it and see how things work. So I was able to touch base with people here at CVS, and they just got me in right away because they knew my experience over there with the Ocean Spray freight. So this time around, it was seamless for me to move in once I had that experience. They were just like, yep, perfect. You're a shoo-in. So
you mentioned, and I hate to go back to it, but so was it just a kind of you're ready to learn something new and you wanted to move on, or like what was that like? Because I know, like, especially the millennial type of thing, the headlines are all like millennials like to jump jobs and all this stuff, but it's more of the challenge. So was that sort of what you were struggling of, like, hey, I kind of, once the job became easy, more or less, you're like, I want to continue learning. I want to continue growing. Pretty
much, because, there's no allegiance to companies anymore too. Like, it doesn't matter if you're there for 40 years or 4 years. So I really just wanted to get that initial experience under my belt. And then once I felt like I had mastered it, I was like, what's next for me? And so in order to move up within TMC and CH Robinson, they wanted me to go to Chicago. So I was actually like, I'm a New England girl, so I think I'm going to stay around here. And then, of course, CVS is right here in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. So it's really close to home, and it was just a perfect fit for me. So it was really the next step.
Oh, so CH was trying to get you to go? Like, they were offering like hey, you're rising, like, let's continue this journey and stuff like that?
Pretty much. So their headquarters is TMC's headquarters is in Chicago, downtown Chicago. So pretty much if you want to move up in the company, become a manager, a new account manager, anything like that, you do have to go to the city.
You had to confuse the hell out of their HR manager. They're like, wait, this millennial doesn't want to go downtown Chicago to work. They want Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Woonsocket and little old Rhode Island.
They're like, what the hell? We're offering her Chicago.
I know.
Okay, so that's fun. So you basically kind of just hit that road and you're like, I still want to learn. They recognize that. So you kind of working with the more retail side. What's different between kind of with what you were working with and what you're working now?
So before, it was just more customer service, really having to deliver on time to the customer, OTIF, everything. All customers nowadays are everything needs to be on time and full, and you get chargebacks and everything from the vendor. And now, being on the other side, we kind of get to scrutinize the deliveries to us, and we kind of manage all of that. So it's cool to just it's pretty much the same job. It's just on the other side. Right. So it's the same thing, but it's different. I'm being exposed to way more types of freight and different types of carriers too that I never used to work with. Because at Ocean Spray, I did raw materials and things like liquid in tankers and, acids and hazmat stuff. And then here it's pharmaceuticals and everything that goes into a store, from fixtures to the drugs to random products. So, and all these different vendors that we work with, rather than just shipping to Walmart and Kroger with cranberries. So it's a way vast network that Ocean Spray is just a little tiny seed, and the CVS is just massive. So I feel like it really made a good move to grow.
How do you manage data, especially given that you've got a better kind of understanding of the stuff, at least in the sense of when the word data is thrown out there, you're not just thinking like it's ones and zeros, like.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I was all about getting real-time tracking, load statuses, all that, but you have to trust your partners when they're telling you something. Hey, yeah, this load's delivered. And again, with the communication piece, like, you don't necessarily know, but I kind of have to trust the people we're working with to give me what I need.
So how do you do that? I think it's such a fascinating question, because especially we grew up more in the tech space. We grew up in stuff like my parents yell at me all the time, your head's in your phone too much. So how do you manage that communication? Because I'm going to assume a lot of times you're kind of communicating with an older generation, a generation that's been doing some stuff. What's been sort of your best practices when it comes to that?
So I feel like people that are, have been in the industry a long time, and just carriers in general, are very phone-based people. They love to talk on the phone. So
gross. Don't talk to me.
I know. And I mean,
I had to call you in the parking lot. I felt bad. I was like, she just text her this. Like, she'll pick up quickly.
But no, really, I like to email. I like to have a paper trail, but it's really all about picking up the phone and talking to people too, and just building those relationships and knowing that you can have somebody that you work with that you can really trust and know that they're going to give you the information that you need and not screw you over, pretty much.
Yeah. But still, the whole the email thing, it's always nice to have it in email and kind of be able to refer back to it. Do you like keep notes? Like, how do you kind of like manage that, especially when you're working more in a phone-based communication?
Yeah. So pretty much after every phone call I have, I'm always like, can you send me a recap of that in an email? Like if they had a question or something for me, like I want a paper trail, because if somebody comes, in the future, as you know, I'm sure transportation gets blamed for everything because we're the last ones that touch everything. So they think, if something went wrong, it's our fault. So I always need to have a paper trail. So even if we are working on the phone and communication is great, I still need that paper trail. So I always ask for it.
So what's interesting you? I mean, all these new emerging technologies, everything that's coming in there, the Internet of Things, what's grabbing your attention? What do you find fascinating kind of with logistics right now?
I just really love all the different moving parts and everything that technology can give you doing it. Like, I just love transportation because every day is different, and like you never know what you're going to get, really. Like one day it could be slow, and the next day you could have a truck flip over and you have to figure it out, and it's just on you. And really, that happened to me last week. So
wait, a truck flipped over and you just had to go like figure out, like, have you tried flipping it back? Like, is that what you like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So, well, it was collect freight and it flipped and our product went everywhere and we own it because it's collect. So I had to figure out, have to take it to our DC. We have to get it inspected. We might have to file a claim on this carrier. So I need photos. I need to coordinate all of that. If there's a police report, I need to know that too. So it's really everything. So having the technology to manage would make it easier, but that's why I really have to rely on my partners.
Do you find that you're spotting these things kind of quicker, in a sense of like when technology's failing or like falling down on you, in terms of being like, you're one of the first, like quicker ones to raise your hand to be like, hey, this is failing, and I think these are the reasons?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. If something's broken and I can find a way to fix it, that's me 100%. Be like, hey, why are we doing this way? Maybe we could tweak this. Is this report even necessary when we're not even getting accurate data from it, type thing, So all about eliminating waste in everything that you do to make, some type of substantial thing from what you're doing rather than wasting.
Yeah, so, no, it's always interesting when you kind of like, man, I spotted that. Like I knew that was a thing and like I brought it up. So what about the emerging tech, like not just visibility, but especially like the things that everyone kind of, the big splashy things like VR or like the RF, like the I forget what they're called, but like the chips and like the freight and stuff like that. Is that something you see of value, or is that something you're like, man, it's going to be like difficult to kind of get that stuff into my system and figure it all out?
I mean, I think it is of value. It's up to the company if they want to integrate it. And there's that word integration again. But, as long as it's going to be beneficial and will help our partners and help us manage the freight, track the freight, I say, I'm not afraid of technology. Like if anybody wants to bring it on, I say, let's work with it. Technology is not the enemy.
Right.
So I'm always willing to see what technology can do for us because it usually can help if you know how to use it.
Right. I guess I'll go back real quick and kind of start to wrap up with stuff. But you say like one of the big things, or the thing that you find so fun, is how ever changing it is. Is there something that you're like, oh God, like what's the thing that you dread when it comes to kind of working within logistics, especially just kind of keeping in mind that under 30, like, so what's the stuff that you're like, man, why, like, this is not the fun aspect of my job?
Just that it's pretty much Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will.
Right.
And that's pretty much, I mean, you kind of have to expect that things will go wrong. But that's also kind of why I like it. It's kind of like, it like gives me that exciting portion, like to know like something could change and I have to figure out a way to fix it because the shipper closes in an hour. And like, it's exciting to me. It's like I thrive under pressure almost. So it's like, this is just, what other job do you get to do that and like really make a difference and know that at the end of the day, you got something done and you moved something. You wasn't just numbers on a spreadsheet or something. Like you're really making an impact to the world. So
yeah, that's going to be the funnest part of it. It's just knowing that like something physical actually got moved to a location and it's there now and people are happy about it.
Right. And, people think too, like, drivers sitting outside, where, and you have to think these drivers are people. Like I'm there to take care of them too, because they're our partners to work with. So I'm always looking out for the drivers, the carriers, our company. So it's just everybody together.
Yeah, like the whole shipper of choice thing. Like you think, and this is just super top of my mind, but like it's just like we've experienced social media. We've experienced like your voice and your personal brand and like keeping that healthy and keeping that important. Do you find that you're able to translate sort of that type of thing, right? I'm not trying to say you're an Instagram like influencer or any of that stuff, but essentially like it's just something we did, right? We had AIM, we had MySpace, we had all those things, and you had to throw all the glitter and everything you could on MySpace to make it cool and make it inviting. But that's your personal brand, so you understand the whole value of like giving attention to the drivers. Like you can't just treat them as like they're just garbage people who just need to get this thing out. Like, no, you need to treat them like humans. You
right,
can't,
because they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like same thing too. Like, people with timely responses to their emails. Right. I'm always, if I get an email, I'm going to respond. It's there. I'm not just going to let it sit there. And I know too, like with IM and everything, it's always quick, instant messaging. So like we grew up with that. So getting an email, I'm not going to let it sit. Knowing me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to respond right away because it's right there. And I'm just used to responding back right away because of the old days of AIM and everything, emails, even with Outlook growing up. So
right, you're not overwhelmed by the speed of communication.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. One thing that you kind of mentioned about is just having thick skin, or you didn't really mention it, but like especially within logistics, right? You get blamed for everything. How important do you find it is to have kind of thick skin, knowing that millennials get told all the time that they're the participation award like generation and that you can't talk to them everything. Every PC police are going to come after them for like, they're going to bring it down on you. They're canceling everything you do. Like still, you have to have thick skin within this industry. Am I wrong?
No, of course. Like that is one thing I really ran into at my first job because I kind of got thrown into the fire, didn't know what I was going to be dealing with. Right. And it is crazy sometimes when people are freaking out, where's my freight? Where's this? And what I have learned is you attract more bees with honey than vinegar. Right. So I always just try to kill people with kindness, do what I can to really assess the situation and help, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to get frustrated and whatever. And so, if a driver or a carrier is frustrated, I always try to de-escalate. And just really using my communication skills to make everybody work together. So
the one line I swear I'm actually trying to wrap up, but it's just you keep saying stuff like, "Oh, geez, I want to talk about this." But you talk about the diversity and stuff. How has that kind of played a factor, especially being a younger woman in the supply chain? How is that? What's kind of your experience with that? That's just so fascinating to me.
Yeah, so I actually do find myself working with a lot of other young women, which is pretty surprising because coming into it, I thought, logistics, truckers, like men, but no, it's not that way. And so I've definitely grown a small network of women in business, women in supply chain, and even just transportation alone. So it's been great, but I have worked with those few older men, in the industry that are stuck in their ways and like tanker companies. They're all just Southern casual, like, like no rush to anything.
Call you miss. They all
ma'am,
the fun,
miss. Yeah, right.
Miss, I'm trying to get this over here right now, so I need you to really hurry up. You're like, all right, shouldn't call me that.
Oh God, I've got honey, babe, and it's like, no. I will take your load away from you.
What about connecting with people? Like, how important is that, having kind of more of a peer connection? Are you a part of groups online, or like, is it sort of just like, this is work, I go home and I have my own kind of personal space? Like, how do you separate the work life?
Yeah, no, I mean, so pretty much my entire team here, we're all a family. We all see each other outside of work and stuff. And that is so great. But on top of that, the partner carriers that we've worked with over time and stuff, I just find myself connecting to people, not only on things like LinkedIn, but really like Facebook, like becoming friends, following people on Instagram, like the younger girls at carriers, that I work with. And we just really become friends because we kind of relate to each other. And like, we're young women in this industry and we got to stick together to make it work. So I really do find myself growing my network within supply chain.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess one last, and you kind of already gave this, but we'll wrap. I know what time it was. I keep looking over. So if they're watching the video and they see me going over here, it's mainly just because I'm trying to make sure this thing's still recording the entire time.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Like, okay, do it again. But what's some piece of advice you'd have for someone, especially kind of bringing it all together, right? Someone who maybe didn't have a major, didn't really know what they were interested in, didn't like math, and still somehow got like into an industry that does require numbers and organization and stuff like that. What's your piece of advice for someone that kind of was in the shoes of young Maddy before? Yeah,
so I guess you really don't know if you'll like something until you do it. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but once I set foot into this industry, I was like, wow, this is so fun. Like, I don't ever want to do anything else. And I feel like a lot of people kind of have that click when they find their job. But if you haven't found it yet, keep looking, keep persevering. You will find it, because here I am. I had 0 experience, 0 internships, just a good school. I was just a good student. Like, just hire me. But once you get it, you will really fall into place and you will grow from there, because I started out with nothing. And here I am 4 years later, and I have so much experience under my belt. Now I have people reaching out to me on LinkedIn like, hey, you want to come join this company? Hey, we have this position. We like your experience. And it's like, oh, where was this 4 years?
Like, where were you 6 months? Yeah. Parents, like, you're sending it to them. You're like, look at what I got. Right. You're like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Maddy. So I guess continue with that. How can people get in touch with you? What can they do? Like, if they want to talk to you, want to connect with you, want to learn more?
Yeah, well, I am always on LinkedIn looking for people to connect at TransTech 2020, always trying to get people to come to conferences and speak about what they know. And really just anybody that wants to know anything for advice or moving forward, coming out of college, not knowing what they want to do, I'm here if they want to reach out to me. But, I've been through it, and people will get through it, because here I am and I was able to make it. So you will make it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You got so much energy, so much excitement about this. This is great.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting me to Woonsocket to do all this fun stuff. All right. See ya.
See ya.
Are you an SCU 30? Want to come on the show? We are always looking for supply chain professionals under the age of 30 that would like to talk about their journey in the supply chain. Leave a comment if you are, or someone you know should be on the show. In the meantime, enjoy past episodes of Consulting Logistics and subscribe to us by clicking the subscription button right now. Thanks for watching Consulting Logistics. I'm Kyle McNaught. Peace.